Hi everyone, welcome back to Intuitive Shutter. Thank you for joining us. This week we're going to be reviewing one of the cameras that we shot in our previous video, so let's get right into it. So this is the camera we're reviewing this week, the Lubitel 166B. This camera, it was produced in 1980. It's a copy of the Voigtlander Brilliant, and it's a follow-up to the 166 from Lomo. It's a Russian camera. So for the specificities, this camera in terms of aperture, it ranges from 4.5 to f22, and for the shutter speed it goes from bulb mode to 150. This camera in terms of lens, it has a 75mm lens, and since it's a square format, medium format, it's equivalent to a 41mm when you're shooting a 35mm camera. To make it simple, if you want to know more about the crop factor, I'm going to put a link in the description that explains the different crop factors and how you can compare lenses depending on the format you're shooting. So it's two lens reflex with a waist level viewfinder, as you can see here. And so we'll get a little more into the pros and cons of the camera. For the pros of this camera, first pro, and it's a big one, this camera is really cheap. If you want to get into medium format, I know there's a lot of people that want to shoot medium format and try it out. This is the camera for you because ultimately you can find it around 30 bucks on eBay, so it's a very, very good deal. And it can be a very good entry point for medium format, as I said. For the quality, the lenses are amazing. The sharpness you get compared to the price you pay is incredible. Also, it's very lightweight because most of the body is made of plastic, so it's really lightweight, it's not hard to carry around, and it's fairly easy to use because everything is mechanical. You don't have any electronics, which usually it's the part that breaks. So this is really resistant. Also, the viewfinder on this camera is really bright. So when you're just starting out with waist level viewfinders, you're gonna like the fact that this one is really bright. So let's get into the cons for this camera. So first con, the lens only opens to 4.5, so it's really not a fast lens. If you're looking to shoot something where you don't have a lot of lighting, this is not going to be really good for it. Also, in terms of shutter speed, the shutter speed only goes to 250, so if you really want to stop something that is moving, you're not going to be able to do that with this camera. Two other cons of this camera are a little particular, because in the beginning when I purchased this camera, I thought those were cons, and maybe you would too, but now I really enjoy those points in this camera. So first off, the fact that it's a square format. So depending on the aspect ratio that you're used to shooting, this can feel really restrictive and really different to compose your images with. That's something that I was kind of dreading originally when trying out this camera, and in the end it turned out to be something I really enjoy, because the images you create with that are really different from the rest, and they really stand out. Also, one of the good things when you're shooting square format, because when you go to medium format, you have to get used to the fact that you have less shots per roll, and when you shoot square, you still have 12 shots in the roll instead of 7 or 8, depending on the formats that you're shooting. So this is something that can be enjoyable. But ultimately, when you're shooting medium format, even if it's a square, since you have a lot of definition and quality, you can still crop the image and get something that has a nice sharp look, even if you're cropping a square format. And the second con about this camera, I would say, is the waist level viewfinder. Some people might enjoy it, but in the end I feel like it's less comfortable than composing your images through a viewfinder, a regular viewfinder. So that's something you really have to get used to. Specifically as well, the fact that when you're aiming with the waist level viewfinder, you always have to move in the opposite direction than what your intuition would tell you to compose your image. So that's also something to get used to. But in the end, this as well has been something that I really enjoy, because when I'm shooting with this camera, I feel like I'm doing something completely different than what I shoot usually with. So in the end, it's still something that makes the overall experience of this camera really enjoyable. First, we're going to take a look at the waist level viewfinder. On this camera, to compose your images, that's what you're going to use. Here you're going to make your focus by moving either one of these knobs, so either the up one or the lower one. You're also going to use this little magnifying glass. It's going to allow you to have a little more definition to make your focus. For this camera, you're going to choose your speed here. So with this little dial here, as we said, it goes from bulb mode to 250. You're going to use this little dial here. And after that, if you want to choose your aperture, this is the knob you're gonna use, and it's gonna be written here on the side. It goes from 4.5 to f22. Here is the timer for timing some shots, and here is how you cock the shutter. So you just put it down here, now it's cocked, and then that's where you press to release it. Here's where you can plug a little shutter release if you want to do it with a shutter release cable. Let's get into how you load the film. So for this camera, you open the back here, then you put your roll down there. You can open the little scrolls here to put your roll, and then you lock it like that. You put your film on top here, and then that's the knob you're gonna roll when you want to crank your film. And also, if you want to know if your film is cranked, you have a little window here, and that's where you're going to see basically the number of the shot you're taking. So every time you want to crank your camera, you're going to open the little window, crank it until you see the number here, and then lock it again. That's basically everything about this camera. Here you have where you can put a flash if you want, and that's where you would connect it. But yeah, that's mostly it for this camera. So now that we've discussed this camera a little more in details, let's get a look into some shots that I took with it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Of course, if you enjoyed it, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to check the video that we did with this camera when we went shooting with Alex, the link's gonna be in the description as well. And lastly, if you have any additional questions about this camera, you can drop them in the comments and we'll make sure to give you all the information we can. Again, thanks for watching. See you later.